releasing oxytocin is the easiest, fastest way to put your body into safety. And like if your body is in the safety place, you are much more likely to get pregnant than not. And the easiest ways to release oxytocin is touch, orgasms, kissing, like just literally anything, and having more like the time that you spend cooking, like really taking in all the senses. So anything that activates your sense of sense, smell, taste, touch, etc., is going to help induce oxytocin production. So the more of that, the better. Oxytocin also has a direct impact on sperm health. So most guys don't realize that, like that hugging, kissing, post-sex cuddling, like all of those are going to support testosterone, but they're more going to directly support sperm health. Yeah, I think outside of hormones, we do a lot of like urinary hormone testing, right? Like that is so important, and they're really game changers in a lot of ways, because being able to see like, oh, your estrogen goes crazy only in this part of your cycle, and it's okay the rest of the time. So a lot of women that are told, oh, I'm estrogen dominant, they're actually not estrogen dominant. They're just like, they have a crazy amount of estrogen only in a particular part where they shouldn't. And that's where it becomes antithetical, or like anti-fertility, is like you have too much estrogen in the wrong part of your cycle where progesterone should be balancing that. And knowing that is crucial. And the only way to know that is to get full cycle testing. So not just a spot test on cycle day 3, but you're getting it all throughout. And the breakdowns of estrogen, and where is it stuck, and like why isn't it converting the right way, and is it getting out of the body the way that it should, and all of those micro things are gonna actually have a bigger impact on the outcomes of whether or not you're able to get pregnant. Because the corpus luteum is like probably the most important part of all of this. So just a reminder, you had the L8 surge, you ovulated, the egg was released. What's left behind is the corpus luteum, the shell of that egg. That shell is producing progesterone for the entirety of your luteal phase, or the entirety of the first trimester, or like 10 weeks technically, of your pregnancy. So if you didn't have a high quality egg, you don't have a high quality corpus luteum, and that corpus luteum is not going to sustain the level of progesterone that you will need if you should get pregnant. So the quality of that egg is pretty reflected in whether or not you have a healthy luteal phase, and is that level of progesterone actually sustained for the whole luteal phase, or does it drop off? You may not get your period, but it could drop, and it's like, well, this is not actually going to get us there, right? This is not an optimal state for you to be able to conceive and stay pregnant. So this is when a lot of people are like, oh, I keep having chemical pregnancies, or I keep having early pregnancy loss. And that's usually from that, the ability of that corpus luteum to really support the production of that progesterone and sustain that level for the entirety of the first trimester. The main things are actually minerals, which we focus less on, but we have a lot of deficiency of minerals because the quality of the nutrients in the vegetables that we eat is depleted, unless, like, one of my mentors actually is a biodynamic farmer. So they like add minerals back into the soil before they start planting. So their vegetables and grains and all the stuff that they're growing is like way superior quality to even organic, right? Organic just means we don't have pesticides. Biodynamic, or that extra level of like mineralization, is amazing. But for those of us that don't live near his farm, We need to really remineralize our bodies. So you can do that in a lot of ways. Supplementation obviously is one. Zinc, selenium, calcium, magnesium, like those are the building block minerals that are going to determine whether certain nutrients or signals are shuttled into and out of cells. So if you don't have the right signals, if you don't have the right levels of calcium, guess what? That shuttling is not happening across the barrier into the ovaries. So ovaries not getting what it needs. Sorry. So a lot of those like channels that are open and shut with calcium, with magnesium, are going to have a huge impact on whether or not you have good egg quality or not so good egg quality. So I think like so many people are focused on like, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that, I'm going to take Vitex, I'm going to take Maca. And some of those things are fine, but if you really get to the core of it, it's like, well, you're trying to overcompensate for something that you haven't supported your body with. And it's way super easy to be like, let me add in some minerals. Let me add a few drops of something into my water that is going to remineralize my body. It's really like we just have to keep asking the question, what's deeper? What's deeper? What's deeper, right? Because I feel like a lot of times people are like, oh, estrogen dominance, that's it. Your body doesn't just have estrogen dominance. Like, that's not a thing. And no amount of dim is going to fix it. Like, just stop with the supplements, right? Like, this is where I get really frustrated, especially with fertility, because people are trying to like way over supplement their way through to the other side. And the number of people that I've had conversations with that are like, oh, I've already done all the natural things. And I'm like, oh, yeah, tell me more. And they're like, well, I take, and then they'll list at least 2 pages worth of supplements. And I'm like, ah, like, this is not what we do. And you can literally be like crossing off the good stuff with the other good stuff because you didn't know that there was a cross reaction, right? Like, you're not equipped to be making decisions on what all to take. Like, take a prenatal, take a multivitamin, take a multi-mineral. Great, no problem. But it's when you get into the hyper weeds of herbs and supplements that without, like, I personally, I'm like, I'm not giving anybody anything without really understanding like, why are we giving you this and what difference is it going to make in your body? So the number of people that are like, hey, just tell me what to take. I'm like, first of all, red flag. Like, you shouldn't be messaging anybody on the internet asking them what to take. But B, like, I know nothing about you. We've done zero testing. Like, there's so much to this that I can't just be like, oh, yeah, take these things. Hormones, especially with fertility, are like, you are cutting off the connection between your brain and ovaries because now you have exogenous hormones that are taking the place of what your body should be producing. And the brain goes, oh, I can check out. I no longer need to do anything because it's covered. And the unfortunate part of this, and so many women are being prescribed progesterone in particular, it's scary. I literally like, my heart breaks every time I think about one of my clients who, it was probably 2 years ago now, that was put on progesterone by a fertility specialist that started on cycle day 13 or something like that, 12, something. And she hadn't even ovulated. So basically, this woman was on birth control for 3 vital years, 41 to 44. For 3 years, she was on progesterone. And I was crying. I was like, this doctor should be under a microscope. Like, what are we doing? How dare you like put this woman in like the 3 years that she could have been actually getting support for her fertility. She thought she was doing the best that she could, going to the specialist who kept prescribing her 400 milligrams of progesterone. When we got her off of that, her cycles were 18 days long. she was ovulating on like day 6 because her body didn't know what to do. And the sad news is she did not get pregnant because at that point she had literally run out of her window. So the thing about fertility is like you cannot be with a provider who doesn't know what they're doing. Like it's really scary, and like it makes me want to cry because I'm like, had you come to me at 41, like you would have been pregnant and had multiple kids by now. Like I have no doubt about it. But it sucks that someone that thought they knew what they were doing put you on this thing that really was the antithetical thing to do. And like the disconnect between the brain and the ovaries takes a little bit of time to like restore. Your brain is like, well, I've been on vacation for 3 years. I don't know what to do.